Hi everyone! Today I'm making the absolute best dinner rolls you'll ever have, and they are actually really easy. I was always a believer that bread was something that would take an entire day to make, but these are a perfect, basically like 2-hour activity, which for bread is actually really short. And these rolls turn out so perfectly. They're soft, buttery, and they have a nice yeasty taste that's just so fantastic and is just awesome for a Thanksgiving side or even a side after Thanksgiving. So let's get started. Super easy. We're gonna start off with some all-purpose flour in a mixer. This is something that you really do need a mixer for. You can use bread flour if you want, but I actually like all-purpose flour because it creates a little bit more of a soft bread. The bread flour creates a little bit more of kind of like a chewy bread. So we have our flour here, and we're just gonna combine all of our dry ingredients. So we have some sugar, just plain old sugar. Gonna pop that right in. And we have some yeast. This is active yeast. I wanted to show you guys the packaging here. It's instant yeast. You definitely want the instant kind. It's in a bag here because I keep it in the fridge. Definitely keep your yeast in the fridge to keep it nice and cool. We're gonna stick our yeast right in here. And the reason why we have sugar in here is it basically is the yeast food. It's like hungry and it needs something to eat, and sugar is what it likes to eat. So we're gonna take all of our dry ingredients and we're gonna turn our mixer on. You wanna start nice and low. We're just mixing. You just wanna combine the dry ingredients, nothing more. And once this is all just nice and mixed, we're gonna turn our mixer off. And we're just gonna tap this attachment off. Try to get it off if I can. And then we're gonna swap on our dough hook attachment. You can do this all by hand, the actual kneading process of the dough, but it is like, it's a very time consuming, it's a little bit labor intensive, so I do really like the mixer attachment for this. And we're going to now add our wet ingredients. So we have here some butter, and the butter is going to add to the texture of the dough. It's going to add to the flavor of the dough. And if you want a rich, nice dough instead of more of like a chewy dough, you're gonna want a high fat dough. You need fat in your dough to make nice, soft dinner rolls. And by the way, this is also salted butter. It's important that it's salted. If you don't have salted, you need to add some salt in for the flavor. Then we have 1 room temp egg. We're just gonna crack right in. Room temp is important because we need the yeast to activate. So all the ingredients in here need to be nice and room temperature butter, room temperature egg. And now we need warm milk. You're gonna use whole milk. Again, you need a higher fat milk in order to achieve this nice soft dough. So we're gonna go ahead and microwave it for about 90 seconds or so until the milk registers at about 110 to 115 degrees. It is very precise, and that's why you'll definitely need a meat thermometer. So I'm gonna go ahead and microwave this. Okay, our milk is registered between 110 and 115, which is exactly where we want it to be. It is so important that it's between those two temperatures because first, you wanna make sure all your ingredients are warm or room temperature. We have room temp butter, we have room temp egg, and now we have warm milk, and that's going to activate the yeast. If it's too cold, it actually won't activate the yeast and your bread won't rise. If it's too hot, it will actually kill your yeast and it will do the same thing. The bread won't rise. So we're going to add our milk right in here, all in our bowl. And then we're going to turn our mixer on. Again, you're gonna wanna start low and then turn your speed up. And that way things won't fly, but you're gonna really combine the dough and get it nice and airy and fluffy and light. Okay, you can see the dough is starting to form. That's when you just want to take a spatula and just scrape down the sides of the bowl so all that loose flour gets into your dough and doesn't stay on the sides. Okay, it's time to turn our mixer up. You really want to get the dough going here so that it's really combining and get some air in there, and that will make for nice, fluffy, soft dough. So I added a little bit more flour to our dough just because it wasn't pulling away from the sides the way that dough should be when it's done. If it isn't pulling away from the sides, usually there's a little bit too much liquid in there and we need a little bit more flour. So you really want to get this dough going. You kind of want to beat it because you want all that air in there. Don't feel like you're gonna overmix it. This is basically like you hand kneading the dough, but with a mixer. So our mixer is going absolutely nuts. And that's when you know that you need to stop your mixer and the dough is ready. It's been about 3 to 4 minutes of really beating this dough and it is done. It's pulling away from the sides of our bowl and that's exactly what we want. And now we're just going to make sure that all the dough is kind of in a ball in the center of the mixer. And once we've done that, it's time to let it rise. Our dough is ready to rise for the first time. There's gonna be 2 separate times where you're gonna let the dough rise. And basically what you're gonna do is you're going to take some plastic wrap. This is kind of my favorite way of letting dough rise. There's many different ways that you can do this, but if you do have plastic wrap, this is gonna provide the dough with a nice, tight sleeping area per se. It's going to let the dough rise and keep all that warmth inside. So you really wanna seal your bowl. You can do this right inside your mixing bowl. You don't need to put it in something else. And then the dough also is sensitive to light. So what I like to do is take a kitchen towel and just drape it across your bowl so that way it's not only nice and warm in there, but it's also dark. And you're gonna let this guy rise for about 40 minutes or so until the dough doubles in size. It's gonna be really massive. Our yeast baby has been sleeping for 40 minutes. I'm so excited to see how big it's gotten. It's huge. It's absolutely massive. Wow, this is exactly what you want. That means your yeast is working, it's risen. So what we need to do is we're going to punch our dough down so you can get your anchor out and punch your dough. That basically releases all of the air from the dough. You can see how beautiful kind of the strands are on the side. And now it's time to knead the dough. You can stick it back in your mixer, but I actually prefer to knead it by hand this time. I think kneading your dough by hand once is pretty important. So we have some flour and we're going to put flour on a cutting board, or you can even just put it on your kitchen counter, but you need a pretty big working space and a pretty generous amount of flour. Stick that over there. And you're going to basically just place your entire dough ball right onto the floured surface. Be gentle with it. Wow, it smells just so fantastic. Oh man, this is when your whole house starts smelling amazing. And you're gonna coat your hands in flour because the dough is gonna be sticky and you don't want it to stick to your hands. And then you're just going to start folding your dough over. I like to start kind of gently just so I can get my grip on it. And then you're gonna start putting your force into it. And kneading dough is actually pretty simple. I'm not a pro at it, so if you're looking for a pro bread making demo, it's probably not here. But basically, you're just gonna fold the dough over and then push it away from you. Fold the dough over and push it away from you. Fold the dough over and push it away from you. And basically what you're doing in this process is you're going to basically stretch the gluten strands, which is going to give your dough nice airiness and fluffiness. And it's just so important in the bread making process. You can keep adding flour. Don't be shy about adding more flour. Flour doesn't hurt anything, but just keep working your dough for about 4 to 5 minutes or so. Keep up the hard work. All right, it's been about 4 minutes of hard work. My arms are starting to get tired. I've kept adding flour. Just keep at it. These rolls are gonna be amazing, trust me. Okay, it's feeling nice. Look at this beautiful, beautiful dough. It's my dough, baby. Okay, so it's time for our last rise. And this is how we're gonna let our rolls rise. Look at me, by the way, I'm a mess. So I have a 1/4 cup here, and I'm basically just gonna pinch off a nice handful of dough. I'm gonna roll it between my hands, and then I'm just gonna check to see if it's about the size of like a heaping 1/4 cup or so. You want all of our rolls to be about the same size. And then what I like to do to make sure that the top is nice and round instead of being all like weird and like wrinkly is basically you're just gonna grab the sides of the dough and you're gonna push them up to the top of the mount, and then you're just gonna flip it. And see, you get a non-wrinkly roll. And that way it will rise nice and evenly and it looks like a nice roll. And then we're just gonna stick the roll right into a 9x13 pan. That's the right size for this amount of rolls. And it's lightly greased just because we don't want our rolls to stick to the bottom of the pan. And you're just gonna keep this process up. You can stick the rolls right next to each other so that they're touching, no worries at all. And this mixture makes about 16 or so rolls. Our dough balls are all ready for their second rise. Look at how beautiful they are. And we're going to just do the same thing that we did last time. So we're gonna take our plastic wrap, and this will provide a nice tight seal for our rolls to rise. It's always difficult to get this on right. There we go. Nice tight seal. And then I have just a plain old kitchen towel, and I'm going to lay them to rest for another 40 minutes, and they're going to pretty much double in size again. Let's check on our roll babies. Wow, look at those. They've risen again. They're nice and poofy and plump, just how we want them. They are perfect. And we're at the final home stretch. It's almost time to eat them. The only thing left is to bake them off, and that is the simple part. It's 350 degrees for 20 to 23 minutes. They'll be nice and lightly golden brown on the top, and they'll look set. The rolls are hot off the press. The smell in here is absolutely outrageously good. I wish cameras had noses to make all the difference. The final touch on these is some melted butter. I'm telling you, this is just the cherry on the top. It's like almost crucial that you do this. It makes the rolls even softer, adds a little bit more saltiness, and obviously then you don't even need to spread butter on the middle of these or jam or anything because they already have butter on the top. And if you really like the salty thing, you can even put a little just pinch of sea salt on the top of each of these, and you'll get a little extra salt kick. Wow, look at these babies. So as soon as I finish brushing them with butter, I'm just gonna let them sit for about 2 more minutes or so, just so the butter soaks in before I go ahead and try one of them. The butter is soaking into these rolls, but they're still piping hot, and I want to try them while they're hot. So I am going to cut one of them right out of the pan. Oh man. Oh, look at how perfect these are. They are so soft. It's so hot. I don't want to burn my hand, but look how soft they are. Let's see if I can break it apart without burning my hand off. Wow. Steaming up the camera. That's how hot and amazing these are. Don't even need extra butter. All you need is the I think this is maybe one of my favorite recipes, maybe my best recipe ever. They're so good. I'm having trouble even saying anything because I'm just in awe of how amazing they are. They're light and fluffy and have just this amazing yeasty taste, a little bit of saltiness. Please check this out for the full recipe on Tastefully Grace. You will not regret it.